I ended up going to Prague to have face surgery to remove excess skin, which I didn't need. But because of my thoughts that if I didn't do this for myself, I was going to end up killing myself. It was like that polarity. I'd come to a point where I couldn't accept myself anymore. And if I put all my eggs in one basket, I was going to fly there, have this surgery that was going to fix things for me.
Hello, welcome to Soul Awakenings with Madiha Sosan podcast. And today, guys, I have such an incredible guest, and his name is James Potts. You need to tune in till the very end because this guy is absolutely amazing. Now, James Potts is a trauma-focused transformational practitioner and holistic healing facilitator and mentor. He is a natural soul language messenger and fuses everything together intuitively for bespoke needs, covering mind, body and spirit. He is trained in many healing modalities, including internal family systems, NLP, hypnotherapy, timeline therapy, coaching, and has trained in many energy medicine practices like reiki and quantum liberation. Now, without further ado, let's bring him on, guys. He is absolutely incredible. Hi, James. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm Madiha, doing amazing. Yeah, thank you for having me and just being here in the space to share and just thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute honor to have you on this podcast because, you know, I think we met on one of the online retreats one of our friends was holding. And yeah, you were doing light language, and you know, I've never come across light language before. So, and you shared a bit about your story. And you know, I was kind of completely blown away by your story, and you know, and I think it's going to help so many people who are listening to this podcast right now. So tell us a bit about yourself, like you know, a brief overview for our listeners.
So so a brief overview of my life, really. So going from, like, you know, quite introverted kid who kind of had to deal with some events that kind of really were traumatic, that sent me on some very deep journeys into my own shadow. I was very, like, you could say, putting on a mask all the time through my childhood and teens, that hiding everything that was going on with me. Not many people could see that, but because I've been on such a transformational journey of going from, I used to be around 25 stone in weight. I was morbidly obese, but then I lost all the weight, and it was kind of like that journey of self-love into my 20s, and, you know, going through so many adversities through my life with loving myself. And it was really coming out the other end of that now is my journey and my story and my vulnerability has led me onto the path of being like a holistic healer, in a sense, and a teacher to assist, to come in with many modalities, some based in evidence-based practices, some based with more spiritual concepts of light and sound, like you talked about there, light language. And I teach what I'm here to learn myself. So I'm teaching from experience and what has helped me. And it's kind of like that's been my path. My story and my transformation has become my path. It was always like it was destiny it's in some way for me to build the toolkit, to have the experience, to hold space for others and teach them. For people who want that kind of template, who are looking to follow a similar path, I believe I've got that kind of template, especially for men being vulnerable in this time. I believe I'm here to help men in this time with the vulnerability.
I mean, now I'm aware that you had a long battle with severe depression and even suicidal thoughts. And what happened to you that led you to a point where you went into a long bed-bound battle with depression?
So this was like, because we're going to get to that anyway, this was kind of like the tipping point of what I was dealing with, body dysmorphia. We'll share a little bit more about that, but this was the pinnacle, because I was going through the body dysmorphia, and this was such a debilitating and secretive disorder that nobody knew I was going through, because of the shame and all these feelings that you feel about yourself. And because I was looking for, I didn't understand my emotions or feelings back then. I didn't know what was going on with me. We were a very secretive family, and it ended up, I chose to have surgery because of how I felt about myself. And I took, nobody knew I was going to do this. I ended up going to Prague to have face surgery to remove excess skin, which I didn't need. But because of my thoughts that if I didn't do this for myself, I was going to end up killing myself. It was like that polarity. I'd come to a point where I couldn't accept myself anymore. And if I put all my eggs in one basket, I was going to fly there, have this surgery that was going to fix things for me. But when I come back, I had a realization, a breakdown. I had to come back and face what I've just chosen to do, and coming that journey of going there and the shame coming back, and then see my parents, and then nobody knew I was going to do this, remember, so it was so secretive. Come back, I had my head wrapped up or my face scarred, and I just didn't know what was wrong with me, and I couldn't explain why I felt this way. And then because I had all this surgery and the healing that was going on, I couldn't take it no more. So it took me into a spiral of depression, these thoughts, even the suicide. And I just didn't want to be seen anymore, or for anyone to see me. What I've done to myself, I thought that was it. I've destroyed, I've gone too far now, and I felt like the elephant man. And I literally just went into a deep, deep depression while I was healing all this surgery. And it was such a dark place because I didn't know what was going on with me. And that was like the tipping point. Yeah. And it was like months and months of just being in bed and not wanting to get up and just not wanting to wake up, because the thoughts I'd wake up with is just, you may as well kill yourself. And that was how I'd start my day. The inner critics and the voices, the parts of me.
What was the leading up to your depression? What was your childhood like? What sort of, quite a lot of people who suffer from severe depression, they go through quite a lot of trauma. So what was happening around you when you were from your child? Take us back in memory lane.
Yeah. Just we can take it because we're just understanding what how people are challenged straight away into the world as well. Even coming into this world at birth, I was like, had the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck. It was a breech, and even my mother went through a lot to give birth to me. So I come into the world with trauma, with that energy, in a sense, that fear of the world, the fear that of almost losing my mother, and then stepping in when I was around 3 or 4. My dad, I didn't know any, because our family kept secrets, in a sense. We didn't talk about stuff. So around 3 or 4, my dad had a breakdown, an overload, a depression, and tried to end his own life. And I was around that energy of, it was never a good day. My dad was ill and he was going through his process. My mum had to work. So I was around a breakdown and him spending a few years trying to get back on his own feet. And that was like the forming of things, really. And specific people who I looked up to, like father figures, like I got into martial arts, and that my martial arts instructor was quite a father figure to me, and such an influence. But he died of cancer. Nobody talked about that to me. And it was like grief, but I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know what that was. It was kind of not talked about. Okay, he's gone. And then I lost this important figure to me. Then I lost my grandmother. And then I just kind of had this growing up in, like, these were my younger years, and I felt very isolated, and I didn't feel like I belonged, in a sense. And then there was some bullying, because after the not doing the martial arts, I started putting on weight. So I went in, like, a bit introverted, becoming the chubby kid, the bigger kid, and there was some bullying at school and things like that, because of an easy target in a sense, and that stuff goes on in the playgrounds and that, and how I felt about myself. But I also, because of what probably happened to me when I was younger around shame, and because you at an early age you're so receptive, and you probably make that about yourself so much, about your father and everything else. I had, because of trauma, how it affects the body, I believe where that come from, an autoimmune disorder, which was very secretive to me. So when I was probably about 12, 13, I had this autoimmune disorder. It's called hidradenitis suppurativa, and it's a very aggressive skin disorder that causes abscess and scarring in the hair follicles. So under my arms, when I started puberty, I had it in my groin area. So it's so secretive and very painful. So, but the dislike started to come from myself, because I didn't understand it. I thought, going through puberty and not understanding what's going on with me as well. And it was just kind of like this dislike. I had the scarring, it called abscess, open wounds. It was very painful, aggressive. And I kept that to myself. Nobody knew. And it took, I was holding on to this for myself for a long time, all through my teens. So that's, going into my teens, that was where I was kind of at. And then we was just getting more self-destructive growing up, like just smoking, not caring about things, and how I was that fat chubby kid, and not caring, disliking myself, and smoking, and just not looking after myself. And then there were some specific events leading up to, which you talked about, which was a very pivotal moment when I was 17, growing up from when I was going to 17, where I witnessed my best friend getting hit by a car, and it killed him. He had what you could say, an air ambulance came. And a little bit of story about that. He stayed at my house, at my parents' house, and when we were leaving in the morning, as I was closing the door behind me and I turned to look, he stepped into the road and a car hit him. So he was outside where we lived, and there was obviously that scene. He had severe brain injuries, and that kind of shaped my teenage years and sent me on a very, you could say, self-destructive path. Is that helpful?
Yeah. I mean, I know losing someone, it's quite traumatic itself.
Yeah.
I lost my dad when I was 13, and the pain is unbearable. But I can't imagine what it must feel like watching someone you care about die right in front of you. I mean, reliving that moment, how did you feel and what were you thinking? Like when all of this was like playing out right in front of you?
It was chaos. It was just, I felt like I'd stepped out as an observer what was going on. The shock of it, and the noise, and just the screaming, and the people coming, and just me having to go back into the house, and that the entire scene of that was so chaotic. I didn't understand what was going on. The police were there, had to give an interview, and I was still in trauma, still processing and grieving. But because he got taken to air ambulance to the hospital, and put on an intensive care machine, we were waiting that night. We didn't know what was going on. They still hadn't declared what had happened, but by the next day when we went to the hospital, they were saying that they were going to turn the machine off. That was it. It was, the injuries were too severe, that he was passing. And the thing that I made an unconscious, this is where this kind of snowballed for me, because I was getting into my teens as well, and I was drinking and the drugs, and I didn't care about myself anyway. I took an unconscious decision. It was an unconscious one. I blamed myself for what happened to him. I thought should have been me who should have passed, and I blame myself entirely. I took it when I walked into the hospital to see him in that bed and see his family and see all my friends. I blamed myself, and that kind of took that. I held on to that, and I really did not like myself from that point, and that cascaded into self-destruction, into drug misuse and the raves, and not saying that was just a way of my medicine, like dealing with myself, and I really hated myself and I blamed myself. And like I say, that was an unconscious thing. I didn't choose to feel that way about myself, but I must have vowed that it was my fault, and I blamed myself through that. And it was so self-destructive, that kind of snowball effect after that. I didn't think I deserved to live. I was misusing alcohol, drinking pints of vodka, just necking anything and drinking anything I could. I was ballooning up I was emotionally eating as well. So my weight ballooned in over a couple of years very rapidly, because I was emotionally eating, drinking, self-destructing, and dropping out of and failing everything I was doing at the time. And it pretty much led to me becoming morbidly obese in a sense. I mean, from 17, 18, 19, 20, in so many years, I ballooned from probably 15, 16 stone to 25 stone in weight. I was just self-destructing through that process because of all that was going on. And my skin disorder as well, that was just flaring up through all the misuse and not looking after myself and the autoimmune. So it was just many pieces to the puzzle, where it sent me down that path.
Yeah, it's often very common amongst a lot of people who are, misusing drugs and alcohol, and basically hitting self-destruction is often the trauma work that they're unable to dig deep within and bring it up and to fully heal it. And for a while, I guess you need to be in that place, you need to be hitting self-destruction because that's when you kind of grow the most, even though it does not feel like it. You go through your life and something happens and you hit that ground bottom, and then you come out of it and you kind of connect the dots, as you mentioned. You mentioned that you had body dysmorphia. So what is body dysmorphia? Like, I wasn't really aware of what body dysmorphia was like until you mentioned it, and a couple of other people around the same time when you mentioned it, they told me about it, and I was like, okay, maybe it's the sign from the universe for me to do a little bit of research on it. So I had a brief look, and it seems to be a quite serious mental health condition. So can you explain to the listeners who have no idea what body dysmorphia is and what it feels like to have it? What are the symptoms of it?
Yeah. So I'll put a bit of context to it as well, because following on from where I was from 25 stone, I actually lost all the weight. Obviously now I'm not 25 stone, and I lost all the weight dramatically over a couple of year period of time, but I had a lot of excess skin. And because of the losing, and I kind of couldn't, it didn't matter what I did, and I had so much body shame with myself. I had this self-obsession with my body, and the body dysmorphia come from this dislike for myself and how I felt, and the body shame and the skin and the obsession I had with my body, and that's why where the body dysmorphia come from, and the kind of how I felt about myself. But the body dysmorphia itself is really a very self-destructive and obsessive compulsive disorder where you are fixated with yourself, and you don't talk about it because most people say you're just vain or whatever, but you're kind of lost in the reflection of who you are or you perceive yourself to be, and it's very secretive. The feelings of yourself are shameful. You feel guilt and shame about your body. And this really flares up because the more you focus and get lost in the mirror when you're looking at yourself, the more you see, and the more others can't see, but you can see it yourself. And in the intricacy of what you're looking at becomes, the way I describe it, everything manifests, and you see as your distortion, and you see yourself as like this elephant man or in the mirror, and it becomes so destructive because you create like these little rituals to soothe yourself. Maybe it's like looking at yourself, maybe it's like rubbing where you feel that you've got this problem. Maybe it's your ears too big, your belly, maybe there's something wrong with your skin. You're kind of like skin picking. You create like rituals around what you're doing. You're constantly looking in the mirror. That's a ritual to see if it's changed, or to see how ugly you are, or to reinforce those feelings. And because it's so that you're lost and inside yourself and these feelings, what I now understand as parts of me carrying these wounds of shame and guilt. The suicidal rate is very strong, because this is where the suicidal thoughts come, because you can't live in your own body. You feel so disgusting. I felt like the elephant man. I felt disfigured. I felt no one wants to see me. I would not go out because of how I felt in my clothes, about my excess skin, about my body. And then I started to believe that no one wanted to see me because I was so disgusting. And then I would reinforce that, because as we know, as I understand things, that reality is a mirror for how you're feeling on the inside. So I'd go out. Maybe there was a conversation that you overheard someone say to someone else that, oh, did you see that guy? Or he was ugly. You would make that totally about yourself. So all conversations on the outside, you'd be picking up other people's, that's nothing about you, but you make it about yourself, because it just reinforces how you feel about yourself. And it's so secretive, and the body shame, you can't live with yourself. This is why people choose to take surgery to try and correct what they feel is ugliness. But I promise you that doesn't work in a sense. It may work for some, but for me it didn't. And it did at times, because some more context, because I had a tummy tuck. This was the start of my tirade with the body dysmorphia. I had a tummy tuck, and then straight away it was like I needed to do something else to correct myself. So it didn't end there, and I had to have a recorrection on the tummy tuck as well, because they messed it up. So that sent me again. I can fix. That was like a very painful procedure, by the way, but that was a positive thing because of the excess skin. I'm grateful for that. But then that obsession over the years, then with myself, that you can constantly fix yourself. It would never end, because there'd always be something else that you'd want to correct about yourself. It's this thing about self-love, and because most people misuse drugs and alcohol to soothe themselves, having body dysmorphia can send you into some places, dark places, as well, because they're trying to soothe through drugs and anything else. So it's obsessive compulsive. Parts of you have deep anxiety about yourself. It come with me with suicidal thoughts and depression, a lack of self-worth, self-love. Took me into self-destructive habits and patterns. Yeah, I believe it's such a secretive disorder, and like you said, not many people hear about it because it's a new disorder. If you look at how we're meant to be perceived through reality TV shows and the internet and what's perfect, and you just it's perfectionism. So you're trying to think you should be that, and then but that is an impossible thing. It's a void that's impossible to create perfection. Your beauty is in the imperfection, as I'm coming to learn. That journey of perfectionism is so self-destructive. Is that helpful from what I shared from that?
Yeah. I mean, it's really, really helpful. I mean, do you think that people who are highly sensitive and empaths are more likely to get it? Yeah,
exactly. And some things happen. I've been tracking this for a while. It can also be environmental. If you're empathic, sensitive, from your traumas, there's no like clear cut, like say you're going to definitely get that. It's just like it could be sensitive, empathic. People have been bullied. A lot of empaths and sensitives are really, they're so sensitive. They feel these things about themselves sometimes anyway. But you're right. It's more sensitive people, deeply sensitive people who feel these things. And Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just for people to be aware of that. If you've got any of these things, just check up on, if it can be a mirror for you to see, oh, maybe this is what's going on with me right now. Just having that awareness that can lead you into so much hope. Because you've got just acknowledging that you're ill, and not acknowledging that you've got something going on is the first step as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
You know, while you were going through it, did you open up to people around you, and like, how did it impact your relationships, especially romantic relationships?
Well, this is, ultimately, I never got into a full-time relationship till I was 36 years old. And, I'm 38 now, but I had some fleeting relationships. But prior to that, I wouldn't let anyone around me. I wouldn't have that kind of connection with people. I would, I would be around, a lot of females and be out there in the rave scene and doing, nobody got to me at that level. I would never allow anyone to, they'd only see me with the mask, and I would go out and I'd have the smile, but I would never let anyone get close to me. I would shut them down. And I never believed that what would they think? I thought that it was a joke when they were saying that they like me or so I'd just shut them out straight away. I was good at that. I could shut it down, and then that would send me into more shame around myself. And I never told anyone about the body dysmorphia. I never knew I was ill. I never knew I had it up until I had my breakdown, which I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
I was going through all my 20s in this secretive disorder, and it wasn't up until I was 30 and had the breakdown that I started to tell people. And of course it affected my relationships with everyone. Not many people got close to me, but it was the journey that come from the body dysmorphia to relearn to love myself and relearn to reconnect, because it took me into so many pathways of learning to love myself, into tantra, into jumping into the fire in a sense, to learn to love myself, because I knew that was the last place I had to go, because there's nowhere else for me, because I was so shameful of myself. And I'd done all this work. I mean, I got to a point where I had the tummy tuck, had the face. I was lean, strong, fit. I was doing kickboxing, martial arts. I was training obsessively. And I felt the worst when I was at that point, even though I had at one point, a six-pack. It was so destructive. Even though not that's the thing, but if you look at it from that perspective, even when I was trying to aim for perfectionism, I felt my worst, and I couldn't let anyone near me. And I was so cut off from my energy and from my my body.
Yeah,
it was shut down.
Yeah. So it just kind of reminds me, I was thinking the other day, today actually, that if you want to build a connection with someone, you got to build a connection with yourself first. Because there's a lot of, even romantic relationships or even friendship or something, there is a lot of people, like body dysmorphia aside, a lot of people, they pull away from the connections because, they don't feel connected with themselves. And a lot of people, when I was going through my mental health, severe anxiety and depression, I was so disconnected with myself, and I was on the same boat. Like, I'm not going to let anyone inside my heart because it's too sensitive. I don't want to open up. And I totally get that. So when you were diagnosed with it, by medical profession, like the doctor, did you go down the route of traditional therapy, counseling, CBT or antidepressants?
So first off, I diagnosed it myself because I was looking for all this stuff. When I realized that there's something going on with me, and I knew, then I had to, I stepped out of what I'd say being the victim now. I felt I'm the only one who can do this. So I kind of searching for what was the symptoms for me. And then I come across this, and it kind of come to me in the end. But then I went to the mental health to then look for assistance. And I got put onto Prozac and SSRI, and you know, this was like to shift me out of my bed. And I started counselling and just therapy, normal talk therapy. I'd done around 10 sessions with that, but I wasn't getting anywhere with that. And they were wanting to up my dose with the Prozac, the SSRI, and I was just disconnecting from myself even more. So I knew it got me out of my bed. And I believe that, of course, whatever you need to do to get you to where you need to be, I think it's all valid, you know, with like these kind of like prescription medicine, you know, if you need to use them, then use them. It was very helpful for me to get me to a certain level. But then I knew I couldn't be in this state because I was still disconnected. I still wasn't feeling, but this was making me a bit more numb, even number. And I thought there's got to be something within this. And the therapy didn't help. It opened some wounds that it kind of brought things up, but I never actually knew how to deal with it. And I don't think that kind of, in my personal opinion, and my perception of those kind of talk therapies, it can be, for some people, it can be very helpful. For me, it wasn't, because I needed to go deeper. I needed to go deep into my shadow and my emotions and the parts that I which I didn't know about what even that was back then. But I knew my seeking, or you could say I kind of put that, when you're in suffering, there's nowhere to go. So I believe you can open a window of consciousness and take a leap of faith with the universe. You can call out, okay, I need help. You know, this moment in time, I'm done. I've got to seek that help now. I know it was a radical shift. Once I take that radical self-responsibility then and realize there was something, and I knew that the medical profession wasn't enough, and that wasn't going to be it. I was seeking like audio books, philosophy, everything, meditation. I was getting into everything because I knew that I'd opened a new door. I needed to do whatever it took to get me from this place. Anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, I totally get you about the, I was in and out of counseling for many, many years. I mean, it helped to talk things out, but I wasn't willing to take action on whatever was coming up. So it was only like, you know, a couple of years ago when I actually came about like inner healing. That's when I was actually ready to bring up all the stuff. And I was doing that by myself. I didn't any professional. And and you know, I was put on antidepressants for a bit, but I went back to the doctor and said, I'm feeling even more numb than and I feel like I'm feeling worse with all the side effects and everything. And I mean, it's helpful when you're in a severe anxiety or, you know, any kind of mental health issues. I mean, it's helpful, but on the long run, it kind of destroys you because you're still not dealing with the root of the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you something else. I forgot. So like, you know, when we were having this, having a pre-chat, you mentioned about the self-love and self-worth. I mean, you know, you mentioned about like you can do all the work, like, you know, sitting in front of the mirror saying I'm enough, and but it's the self-love, the deep work that you need to do. Like, can you explain a bit more about that deep work that people can do? They can take, if they're going through this right now, what can they do? What is the first step for them?
So so self-love comes, like, it's such a big subject, and I'm grateful for you bringing this up. And it comes in, I felt it comes in many layers, and the deep work. I mean, the self-love, my understanding of self-love from my, you know, one of the therapies that I trained in is internal family systems. So we're understanding that we are multiple, we have parts, and this is the way the psyche is. And this is where trauma is organized in our psyche and our body. There's no separation. So everything that's happened to us, all the traumas and all the burdens that we have are stored within our bodies and within our nervous system. And they said that we carry trauma within ourselves. So the deep work I talk about in the self-love is getting to the parts of yourself that you have pushed away, disregarded, that are exiled, that are deeply wounded, and going back to them through the deep journey. As we talked about, counseling is like, talk therapy. When you close your eyes, go inside and access these wounds in your body that you feel that are there calling for you, that you can go inside and take that journey to do the integration, to go back as you are now, to go back to them, these childlike inner child parts that have gone through all this traumatic life, are carrying the burdens of your past. The power of then, I call it. They're carrying the power of then, which is the traumas, the burdens, the perspectives, the beliefs that you hold to be true about yourself. Going back to those parts, getting past the protective layers who are stopping you from getting to them vulnerable parts, because it's quite deep work, getting to those vulnerable parts, freeing them up, bringing them into the moment now and integrating them back with you now. So all the parts of you pushed away, the parts of you don't like, I believe that is a key element to self-love, because you're bringing it all back. You're not pushing anything about you away. You're bringing it back into the love of who you are, with compassion and connection. So that's how I see like the integration of the internal self-love. And then, that's deep. That's a deep one in its own right. And then the physicalness, the reconnection, like the sensitivity to yourself. I journeyed through Shakti Tantra and put myself in a position to receive, even though I never thought I could receive, but put myself in. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but for me, it was about that personal connection back to myself, to be vulnerable, to go and reconnect with my energy, to have people reconnect that energy with me, and to feel, to touch, just to know it's okay to receive love from others. And then there's the obviously the self-care of that's what we talk about with the inner critics, the parts of you, because if you can say all that you want, if you're saying that I love you in the mirror, but deep down you've got all these wounds, you're not going to truly believe I love you. It's not going to happen, because your structure of who you feel about yourself is so strong that just by saying it, you don't resonate with it. So all that internal work, the physical work on the outside, the looking after yourself with like putting good food in your body, the rehydrating yourself, and all the drink and the alcohol and the cigarettes, the just doing good things for yourself, giving yourself a moment to just sit and just receive, whether it's be sitting in the sun or have a nice bath with like salt, doing those little things for yourself, nice rituals. It's a big chunky thing, self-love, and it goes so vast. It's so vast. Is that helpful, what I shared?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people will resonate with this quite a lot, because I think a majority of us, even if we on the surface if you look at us, like, no, we haven't got any issues of self-love, but I believe that every single person on this planet has that issue in one form or another, until you go within and you like check in with yourself, like self-reflection. So you've been through so much in your life from early age, everything about your parents and your autoimmune disease and losing your best friend. There's just your journey's just been incredible, like, and I'm not saying in a sense an incredible, but incredible in a sense like giving people hope. What was the turning point that led you on a path of transformation?
The turning point was in the bedbound depression, where I had a reconnection with what I would call the bigger self or higher self of me, where I was so deep, and then I was looking for the answers. Then I had with clarity come through that you can get out of this now. You've chose now to transform you. This is a window for you now. The suffering has become unbearable. So it's like that intention. I intended for help, and I got it. I made like a brief connection with what I call my higher source, my higher self, and that kind of gave me that window. Then I kind of then had, it was so beautiful for me. And because I called for that help, I feel that was the turning point. And then that led me to the snowball effect, that the small steps to start with, like the months getting out of the bed, then, you know, like researching alternative therapies and medicines and, you know, holistic practices, outside the box thinking, listening to podcasts, philosophy, books, reading, digesting anything I could. I was blessed, in a sense, with a job that was, in a sense, I didn't have to use my brain, and I could get away as well. Once I started to get back on my feet, back into work, out of the bedbound depression, still on the therapy, I was digesting so much information that I could just listen and digest, and then that would lead me to the next book and the next thing and the next opportunity. And I was open. I was an open book, a sponge then, and it kind of, that was like the transformation, and that led me to to plant medicines, teachers, holistic therapy, energy healing, reiki, you know, like just people who know how to work with food to help inflammation, and it was a cascade snowball. But it was my intention, to myself, I believe, that was I'd got into the deeper levels of suffering so much. The only way is up. Yeah. The only way I could go was up. There's no other place from where I was then. It was that trajectory. And I chose then to take that responsibility, radical self-responsibility to save myself.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. Like that little spiritual awakening, we call it. You know, so we all have that moment of light bulb moment. Oh my God, yes, I need to change my life. So you know, as you mentioned, you've taken a plant medicine, so I'm aware that you've taken ayahuasca. Can you explain to the listeners who have no idea what ayahuasca is, and what was your experience like of taking it?
Yeah, and some more context. I work with all the master teacher plants, as I was saying, because they're all master teachers. I see them, and ayahuasca was the first one that come to me. So yeah, I was kind of like realizing there was more to what was going on, and I was called to listening to podcasts. There was this ayahuasca, this healing medicine from the Amazon, or this kind of shamanic brew that was allowing you to go into deep process, to have like this place where you go and do deep shadow work within yourself, to have it reflect back to you all your suffering, so you could process it in quite an intensive moment. So my experiences of it is just a leap of faith. I knew this was coming into the field, and I was kind of bringing it in, and I ended up traveling to Italy. You know, like I'm up for anything. Like I chose to go anywhere and do anything I could now. So I traveled to Italy and to do like a 7-day ayahuasca retreat. And that's when I first took ayahuasca, and working with this, that was the cascade of many things. But working with ayahuasca itself, you know, I mean, this is just a powerful, I see it as like a reboot, and it taps you into what I call the holographic nature of reality. So where we go into, when we take this medicine, we go inside, and then we're in those other dimensions, our spiritual dimensions. We're tapping into the holographic nature of reality. And we're knowing that we are spirit then, that we're connected to such a source, something so much more intelligent than we are. And you drink it, you're in the process, you do it in ritual, people hold space for you. And you go deep inside yourself. There's nowhere to go. So once you're on the train's left at the station, you drink it, you go inside, and then you're having this process of, for me, the first drink I had was very loving and caring, because I was already in a state of, I didn't need to, she's so intelligent, because it is an intelligence of itself. It's Mother Earth, I see, like coming through these medicines to heal us. She's so intelligent. She just loved me and nurtured me. And that was what my process was the first time I took it. She got me back on my feet. She was showing me things. she was showing me all this holographic reality, and she was showing me how to love myself, giving me love. And it kind of it wiped the wind out. When I done that 7-day retreat, it helped me see myself in a different light from having those feelings. It helped me process some feelings about myself, some shame that was going on. So it was quite beautiful. But then I got deeper into the medicine, and then it kind of processed me to bring up my deeper layers of work, my shadow stuff. And then that was like deep processes of purging, sometimes, through crying, releasing, maybe sometimes sick, even purging at the back end as well. I mean, it's a release, whatever you need. And you're having deep experiences of collective wound, ancestral wounds, holographic, because it's holographic in nature. You're tapping into all timelines of healing in this life, past life. And it was like a big journey with ayahuasca, and a beautiful journey that reminded me, once you have those experiences, it's like you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You're having an experience so profound that you know that there's more than this. Reality is not what it seems. It's holographic, and there's so much more to this. So it's kind of like that journey with that specific medicine. So it's quite beautiful. But it also come to a point where I realized that I was seeking myself in those medicine journees. Again, because my obsessive nature of things, I thought I could find myself in those places. So that can be like an addictive ritual where you're just jumping in one weekend and not processing. You're thinking you're going to spend loads of money, and then knowing you've got it all within anyway, but just knowing that those are valid places to go to find to do some work, but not put everything into those experiences. But I see it as a reboot, as an awakening process. It was for me.
So what would you say to people who are researching about it and want to take it? What would you say? Is there like I know quite a lot of people who would jump in and try it out when they're not ready for it, because you can go either way, right?
And this is a very beautiful subject, and a very, very deep one, because first off, I would advise I'm not going to get into too much about my experiences, but when I first took the first journey of ayahuasca, the medicine journey was beautiful with the plant medicine, but the way it was held was not. So I didn't know anything about what I was getting myself into. I didn't know what a real held space was. And I took my own, and I had some negative experiences in the sense it wasn't held properly. I could see that the people were in it for the money. And so you've got to do your research with this. This is something I'm sharing. Not everyone is there for the highest and greatest good. Things can be used, because just because you're going to someone who serves this medicine doesn't mean they've done their work, and it doesn't mean they're coming from high integrity either. So really find a network of people that you can trust. And maybe there is a network out there. I'm not sure if there is, because I'd made my contacts. I made contacts through taking the medicine, who led me on to better people who held space better for me, and it was more beautifully held. So that's it. Try and find people who you can trust, who know people who you can be recommended. Not just take an advertisement on Facebook saying that this retreat's going to be the best thing. Do the deep research, because you don't want to take a journey somewhere where you'll regret. And this is the thing, there's a lot of stuff happening with that stuff. You hear about the negative, and I'm not going to play into the negative with it all. But I hope that's helpful for people. Do your research, trust your heart, trust the people. If you can trust the people around you and trust your heart, then go with that, and then feel that, go with the gut feeling on it. But do your research around that. And this is what you've shared with, are you mentally right to go into these medicines? So be honest with yourself. If you're taking antidepressants, no, you're not. Maybe some specific ones, but I knew I had to come off the antidepressants. So be radical self-responsibility. Don't just take something like that. If you're taking other medications, do your research, because that can have serotonin effects on the brain, because you're already taking up SSRIs to uptake serotonin, but taking these plant medicines floods your brain anyway, and this can have a real negative effect. You could have a very detrimental effect. So do your research with your medication, and then ultimately I know this to be true. I know people who I'm here to speak the truth. I know people who it was a positive effect with me, but I also know people who it took them a cascade of fragmentation and a journey of deep awakening, and they're still going through it many years later. And that's the truth. Having drinking it multiple times and then it opening them up so much. Because some people go to these medicines with a view on reality that they think is fixed, maybe scientific, logical. Those people may struggle with taking things like this, or if you've got some perceived mental health problem, complex mental health, and I would not recommend it. And it's not for everybody, and that's my honest opinion. Because I know people in real life who had to go through such deep inner work, and once you've done it, you've opened the door. I'm not putting people off with this. Just this is coming from my own experience, but I know some people who had to have deep. It took them on a deep journey of reintegration from going through those experiences. It's not for everybody, but if you've got to trust that if it is for you, go with your heart. It's hard to navigate. I jumped in with a leap of faith, and I never, I've done it all the wrong ways. But I'm hoping that this framework I'm sharing helps people to make those decisions, because it's not all love and light. Drinking these medicines, be prepared for transformation, be prepared for having experiences that take deep growth. Because I would recommend having time out, because I drunk medicines on a weekend and then was back in work on a Monday trying to process this stuff. And it was just, I was all over the place. So, I didn't know where it was coming and going. Make sure you've got support networks. Make sure you make the right connections, and you acknowledge this as a profound sacrament. Respect it. Go in with that love and connection, and have strong intentions of what you want out of it. It's not just something to be abused, or, because if you go in with this kind of mentality, it's just it's going to teach you a lot about yourself, and it might be a challenging experience, but maybe some people need that as well. So, it's all valid. It's all valid. It's all valid.
Yeah, so it's basically just don't go into it just because it looks cool.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
your research, and I think it's best if you go on a spiritual path yourself and do a bit of even start off light with Reikis and some in like working with healers, and then decide whether you're ready for it. Because if you go in straight away, it may not turn out right. That's it. And just understanding yourself and having a bit of a toolkit, exactly what you've shared, knowing people around you can support you through that process. Aftercare is so important with that stuff. If you've got this is the power of ayahuasca. If you've got the right aftercare, and you can use that with the doing the medicine and the integration after the aftercare, it could change your life. But it's not just the golden pill either. Don't put all your hopes in that, because you've got to do the inner work yourself. This is all about inner work yourself. I hope that's helpful. Thank you for that. That's a great advice. Now, when we were at the online retreat, you were doing light language. That was the first time I actually came across light language. I mean, I've been on this spiritual path for several years now, and I was like, I'm learning something new every day. What is like light language? What is the process of it?
So this is just, you could say this is what come about from my journey. It's kind of like a gift. Through the journeys of the medicines, I believed all the medicines like I've shared, I took like with the ayahuasca, the 5-MeO DMT, the iboga, I used mushrooms. I've used many sacraments, and it was kind of like a process that I connected to. I listened. The shamans of the jungle use like healing song called Icaros. It's like using sound to heal, to soothe. So the light language come as a byproduct of all the work I've been doing. I ended up being around people who were speaking this like language, and I was like, what is this? I feel this, but it's not something my brain can, I don't know what it's saying, but I get a feeling of it. And this kind of initiated me. I ended up having the activation, if you would, a sense of or remembrance that this is something of we all can do. It's like a soul expression. I could share it. So you could see as, or it is labeled as a universal language by the soul. And take it, that's a big, it's a big concept really when I share that. But because it's what I believe, what I know to be true, it's language of the soul, it's language of the spirit, a universal language. So it contains, we're getting into the metaphysics and the more woo-woo stuff here, but that's okay. It contains healing, wisdom, love. It contains geometry. It contains energy. It's like multifaceted and multidimensional. And when I say that, it's a feeling other than something logical. It's this like consciousness stream in a sense where I share it with you, and you get exactly what you need. You just get the feeling of it, and it can be used in so many ways, and it has many sounds and dialects to it. It can come with tone, it can come with language, it can come with clicks and whistles, because light language is like a vibration and energy. And it's a big concept because I started to speak this quite fluently, and I started to use it with all my healing practices and allowing it to come through me. This soul language, it always gave a gift. It always soothed. It always helped someone in some way. So I knew its healing properties, but also its wisdom, because some people get information from it. It gives them information. They get a resonance to it. Yeah, the way I could say it on a simple note is that it aligns you with when you hear truth, when you feel truth, you connect to that. So you feel it. Then it aligns you. It brings you into like a recalibration, a feeling of who you are beyond the physical, out of the left brain into the heart. So it can just align you in the moment. It can shift your consciousness and bring you into a state of love or joy through just the feeling itself, just through the acknowledgement of it. And then you realize that you're so much more than this in a way. Is that helpful, what I've shared with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean,
I'm happy to share as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was the first time I came across it. And when you were in process of it, you did mention that some people may fall asleep, or some people may get insights and things like that. And me and my three of my other friends, we fell asleep, and it was like, and when we woke up, we felt different. Like, we felt like, I don't know, I felt lighter. I felt like more I was more clear in that sense. I thought it was quite powerful. It was quite powerful.
We're coming to understand what more of this is as we open ourselves up to more, what this can be used for. Sound, they're saying sound is the healing of the future. And these sounds are here to assist us. And it can sound a little bit out there, and it can people, I'm a very grounded and integrated person, and I do that work to be here, humble, grounded, but this is a byproduct of the work. And what you're sharing is there. Sometimes we get what we need without knowing. So if we fall to sleep, it can act like a lullaby. And when we wake again, we feel refreshed, we feel renewed. We could have released something, or you could have been given something, because it works on so many layers of who you are. I normally say you've got exactly what you needed. Because you have, like you said, if you put you under to sleep, I mean, you can use the language of light in so many ways. I work it. I'm an outside of the box person. I don't put myself in a box. So I've trained in many modalities: internal family systems, integrative trauma work, dealing with parts and shadow work, hands-on healing. I use it in all my practices if it's valid and if I feel intuitively ready for it. Because if someone is suffering and they're overwhelmed and their system's flooded by emotions, I can sing like a lullaby to them, which can call them back to an awareness of themselves. So I can sing them and hold them with the frequency of love without being intrusive. It's not something that's forced upon them, but it can just hold them in a space and it can bring them back out of the suffering. Or we can use it to clear energy. We can use it to bring in information. Like I said, it's so varied and vast, but it's a beautiful innate technology that us as human beings, spiritually aware and awakened, can tap into. And it's not something anyone can say you need to do this course to do. You can literally spontaneously have this through your journey. If you align with it more, if you hear it more, and you feel like such a resonance, most likely you have a connection to it that you can activate within yourself.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share a little bit now if people want to give a little bit of an experience of what that is.
Yeah, that would be great.
So if I will use this in a more joyful manner, because I have many ways. So what I invite the audience to do, I'm gonna use a little bit of language, and just for people to get an understanding of what this, to feel what this is, just drop into your heart in the best way you can. I will share a song first, which is still part of the light language. So just drop into your heart and feel this for the people there, and just rest in awareness in your heart. Just know this is safe. This is just whatever comes up for you, just acknowledge it and let it go. And if you feel some emotion, just breathe through it. It's okay, because this helps us release as well. So just focus on your heart now. Breathe into your heart. And I'm going to sing you a song or a lullaby using the language of light. Surayo Saro Saranayanayo Sarayo Yu Surona Karanaya Nayanayo He Santurastayanayo He Surunaya Naya Nanaya Hu Surakahaya Nayo. So just breathe that in. Whatever you felt from that, just know it's okay. Know it's okay to feel. Know it's okay to get into your heart a little bit. And if the people who listen to this felt something from that, just know you're feeling again. It's okay. Did you feel anything from that, Madiha? Did you get something like a resonance to something?
Yeah, my heart felt really light, really light, really light, and it's beautiful.
So it goes beyond, and this is what the shamans use icaros and sound to heal. So this could be used in ritual or sound and in healing practices with hands-on healing. And obviously there's language as well. So that was a song. So there's many dialects as well. So this is kind of like a deep dive into light language, which is beautiful, because this is what's happening. This is the reality of what it is to be human, and what we're finding more about ourselves. So we're so much more than we think we are. So there's many dialects. So we have like the UK, where we have different, we have the Mancunian accent, we have the Birmingham accent, we have the Wolverhampton accent, we have the London. We've all got like a twang or a sound to us that was different. So these languages all are like that. We have a different feel or a different flavour to them. But I can share a little bit of the actual spoken language as well. I'll do two. One more tribal, because I feel we're tapping into parts of us that are lived indigenous and tribal lives that are wisdom key. It's like wisdom, and it's beautiful. This is one of my first languages that I spoke, that come to me intuitively. So I invite you all to go inside again and just receive this message. It will be a message of love. O saran tu korono tu kora pa antia san tu korotuku isata karanasia tu ku upa aranata kianotu hisin tu koro po ayatianaku hisina tarastinta karanatiaku hasiatakia ina karanotuku unatia si ina tarestiatuku hinsa aronuko toronakiatakiatuku ina karanotuku upa araitiatu. So we've got that more like distinctive language. Then I'm going to do a more joyful language, because we can shift the energy once we work with these more uplifting energies. You might laugh a little bit, you might feel a bit of joy, because this energy, that's what it's about, this frequency. So feel in your heart again. Orompan santo kurotoku, Europa anatiatatis hiatoku supa arastitiki natakano totoroto. Isipi enharatikina sa anatorotokupa, inakaratikina si inatorotoku unasiati anatuhu. Harapu unatikanatayatu suotorasinta arenatikiatuku. So yes, straight away, it brings you joy. Feeling that it's like, it's quirky, it's joyful. I mean, you know, like, people thinking, what am I listening to now? But I have to really get over like my own.
It really does. Oh my God, guys! Honestly, I was like, you know, it's not gonna work. I'm not gonna laugh. But then all of a sudden, it's just like my heart just went open up. It's like, no, honestly, it does. It feels really light and it's like playful. It felt playful and like sort of energy. Yeah.
So yeah, it's beautiful because it's so innate, it's so fluid. You can do it, and people think, what is this? I mean, just looking on the outside, try and think about what this is logically. You've got to feel it. But it's beautiful because it can shift you can change how you feel. I can change how I feel just by sharing this with myself. You can become your own sound healer in a sense. You can feel yourself where you're at and bring these languages through for yourself. You can record them for yourself and then mirror that back to yourself. And it brings you joy. You can shift wherever you are. You can get out of that those lower emotions and lift yourself. If it takes a few attempts, that's okay. But you know, you have this kind of added toolkit in a sense, which is just natural. There's nothing non-natural about this. It's so fluid. I can speak it like it's English. I mean, you know, so it's just like that.
Yeah, you know, when you were doing the light language during the online retreat, before I went into when I fell asleep, I kind of felt my eyes like flickering a little bit. You know, is that part of the? So when you're receiving it, is this like, do you feel any like? Obviously, I felt it, and other my friends did as well. So is it more than likely for you to sort of twitch or you know, do you get quite a lot of that
you can have full physical symptoms, full like recalibration. You can feel your spine moving. You can have sensations, feelings. You can feel like things are working on you. You can feel things that are being released. You can have like twitching, like processing under the eyeballs is like, you know, processing energy in a sense, maybe, because that's, you know, our emotions are connected to our eyes. So if things process like EMDR, where rapid eye movements, where we process things through our eyes. So receiving that kind of information, maybe it's processing. You can have tingles, you can have epiphanies, you can have like waking dreams, where it's just showing you, like, if you can go really deep with this stuff. Take people on journeys with like the drum and sing, and you can have full physical like releases. You can have like activations, what I'm calling myself, epiphanies, physical symptoms. Yeah, just things can happen. Things can shift dramatically by using the power of sound, the power of the voice.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. I mean, I've never come across it. I still can't. It's mind blowing. You know, everything you learn. The thing with this is, you know, you have to have, you know, your ego mind is always like, oh no, this isn't safe. This is weird. This is that. This and that. But you know, you just gotta quiet your ego mind and let it filter in. You know, be open to everything. And that's the thing. You know, a lot of us are so closed off to new possibility, new realities, that we don't see the bigger picture. You know, so things like language or, you know, ayahuasca, I know for some maybe, oh my God, that's a bit too much, but you know, like I said, just stay open, to have open mind, and you will you know, the universe will send so many signs and so many things to you where you will be like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get it. I get it. Yeah,
exactly. There's so much to make us realize that there's so much more in this. And I like I say, these new ways, or they're just ways that we're remembering again, that we can all do this. I'm no better than anyone else. I come to this through my own journey of finding it and seeking it. It found me, and then I realized that I could do that, and then with intention I was doing it. So I'm no better than anyone else. I have to, exactly what you're sharing, you've got to do the integration work, your ego and all that stuff. If that comes up in a block against this stuff, that's where you need to go. I have to constantly do integration. I have to know who I am and integrate my parts, self-observation, reflection. Because when I see myself as a channel for this, I can do verbal channeling and light language, and I have to really do self-observation work with my ego in check, because I cannot do this with my ego involved anyway. It's out the way, and that's probably why, because of all the work and I've done, this allows me to do this freely and openly and vulnerably, even though I'm only just coming out. This is quite vast in the sense I'm stepping up to share it on a public podcast like this in this way. So it's a beautiful opening and coming out the spiritual closet a little bit for me. So that's okay, because it's just broadening the horizons. People need to know that there's more. And if you, like I say, be open. If you're just open, there's so much more you can. If you already think you know it all and you've got everything and the all ways the right way, it's all about perception. You need to check yourself where all that's coming from, because the more you can just let things go, the more you can fill yourself up with so much more that is out there for us to discover and remember. It's not for everybody, this stuff, but if you feel a call into it, then follow the thread, follow the door, follow what you said, synchronicity. It will draw you into beautiful things.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you've been through so much adversity from a young age, and you went on a bit of a transformation, and you know, your story is incredible. Like I said, like, it's going to give so many people hope, and it's going to motivate so many people, and it will open up more doorways for other people as well, who don't know about all of the work that, you know, you all of the stuff that you do. So can you tell us about the work you're doing now after going through all of the adversity and transformation, and what are you doing now? What is James doing now?
So because my journey of transformation, that was my destiny, I feel, and I learned so many, trained in all these different modalities, whether it be internal family systems therapy, which is an integrative, evidence-based, trauma-focused therapeutic model that integrates. I've worked with like NLP, reiki, healing, quantum healing, channeling, all this stuff. I kind of like put myself as a quite diverse the work that I'm doing now. So I love to be like, have all these tools at my disposal. So I do one-to-one integrative shadow work with people, bringing back helping them release burdens and bringing those parts back to them, healing from the self, empowering people with that, because I'm a facilitator. I hold space for them to do that, so it re-empowers them to do that for themselves. And I will work with the IFS model with that, and I will share, if needed, I will work with the sounds, the language of light, and also my intuition with that. So it's quite organic and intuitive the way I work one-to-one with people at that level. So I do one-to-one healing integrative work. I also help people access their own light language. So I do this normally in a group, or I do one-to-ones where I can help them access what they already have innate, which is their own soul language. And I can help them bring that back to the moment. And then that takes them on their own journey. I've been speaking the language of light for about 4 years. So it doesn't start off this fluid, but your journey will evolve and you will get more from it as you open yourself up. But I can catalyze them to start their journey with it. And I've done around 30 people now with that. It's like an attunement to the language of light and activation. I've been running courses how to work with the language of light. So I run courses as well. I've just finished up a course, and we're going into very spiritual concepts. We're also deep concepts and philosophy and a toolkit to help themselves. So I've just run this course. I'm also now about to do what I'm in the lab with. Is really, I'm going to do a Love Your Reflection course where it's going to be focused on what we talked about here. Mm-hmm. This is in the process now, which is going going to be all about the reflective mirror of reality and the way we see ourselves, and how the metaphorical mirror of how we see each other in the world. Toolkit of understanding parts of the mind and how we can heal this stuff, how we can see ourselves in another light, taking deep people into some release work and self-love work. It's going to be a course that I'm creating, well, I am creating right now. Love Your Reflection, that's in the process. I'm also, this is what I mean, I don't put myself in a box. So I'm doing the one-to-ones, I'm running courses. I also got a group where I share intuitive messages, light language, perspectives, perceptions. So I'm running like a group where I just share this stuff. I'm so just in this right now, where this is becoming who I was always meant to be. So it's like one-to-one work, activations, courses, intuitive readings. It's so vast that sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. It's just like, I've got so many things. It's all my joy though. Most of my work has been for the last 4 years, because I've trained in those therapeutic models, and I've worked in clinical practice as well for a short-term while. I do a lot of integrative shadow work with people. That has been my main process, because of the spiritual nature of things and activating people. I'm going to be more of a teacher role in creating these courses. So if people are interested in any of this work, I'm going to be launching soon 2 specific courses: Love Your Shadow and more of a higher self connection course, helping people connect to more upper rooms, more awareness, and that'll be fused with light language and spiritual concepts of light and sound, and just deep expansive work, and then there's the shadow work. So it's a light and dark series in a sense. So that's where I'm in the creation of right now. So I'm really loving this process. I mean, bringing everything together. I don't hold one thing to be true as better than anything else. I take everything that I've ever learned and I bring it into a package that works for people as a template.
Oh, this is incredible. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to be working with you as well. I'm looking forward to it. So if any of you guys are interested in, how can they contact you? So, if they're interested, if any of our listeners are interested in working with you.
Yeah, so for the meantime, I haven't got my full website up yet. That's in the process. But if you look for Soul Restoration, James Potts on Facebook, my page is on there, which is kind of like my business page at the moment. And I have a group which I call the Heart Stargate, because I think we can access all that we need through our own heart. So I call it a Stargate because we're stepping into more like multidimensional reality. This is like a place of light language, out there concepts, integrative techniques, humanness, groundedness. So we're going through bigger picture stuff, but we're coming back to being human, how we can work with all this. So I've got a group called Heart Stargate. My business page is called Soul Restoration. I've got my emails, me@jamespotts.co.uk. I'm in the birthing process of creating some, like my website. So that if they can connect to me on there, through the email or the website, they can ask me some questions on anything. Really, if they want to come to the group and listen to some of my channelings, my light language, my perspectives, like I say, they can come into the Heart Stargate and receive like light language healing. I offer that as well, just in my sharings. And I also, and I forgot to share this work. This is something that I'm here as well working with, because I'm in a full-time loving relationship now with my beautiful partner. Who's an amazing mirror to me. We've been doing one-to-one, we've been working with people as well, because she's like an oracle seer, hands-on healer, a beautiful being who mirrors me perfectly, because I'm in a loving relationship now after all that and everything. It's just, she's a beautiful mirror, and I honor her. And we do one-to-one work with people as well. This is like deep hands-on healing, intuitive healing work that goes very deep, with the two of us working in unity as masculine and feminine. So that is an option as well. So, but my partner's amazing. I love her, and I brought her in because that's the work I do as well. And there's so much more that's going to be birthed with that stuff with my partner. You'll see her in the Heart Stargate group as well. But yeah, there's that there as well. So I hope that I'll just drop that in at the end. So there's so much to this, but it's all joyful. It's all love.
Yeah, and I'm glad you added that in, because you know what we were talking about before about having the body dysmorphia and relationships. Now
Yeah.
there is hope.
Yeah.
There is hope that when you do all this work on yourself, you automatically start attracting the right people, the right situations to you. And yeah, so that's more of like a reward from the universe to say, hey, you've done all
Yeah.
this work. I will align you with such a beautiful romantic relationship, a beautiful friendships, and the work that you're gonna go on. And
Yeah.
the path just opens up to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
exactly that. It's
yeah,
exactly
sorry.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
If
for
the
it.
consciousness mirrors you where you are, when you're in that conscious relation, the mirror of relationship, it's a beautiful healing. It is healing. So just a little note on that. Sometimes we think we're too broken, or we're not healed enough to get into a relationship. But when we're actually getting into the relationship is where the deep real healing does
Yes.
start as well. So if we think we're too, if you get into a relationship, you'll actually start the healing.
Yeah.
So
So funny.
you've got to look at it like that. If we don't stop the seeking and allow someone in, eventually know that it's okay to
Yeah.
eventually have that a relationship with someone, because it will be hugely healing.
So, James, on a lighter note, I'm going to ask you some questions. So it's a rapid fire
Yeah.
round.
Yeah.
So, just you can expand on it or whichever, because you carry so much wisdom and knowledge, and I think the more you expand, the better. Or you
Yeah.
can just answer it in a short, brief, whichever way. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna ask you now. Ready?
That's great. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do
Yeah,
this.
I'm gonna grill you now.
It's all
Okay,
good.
so what is your definition of God?
My connection to the oneness that I am. I see it as love, as the power of love. I see God as love, or that knowing within myself. My experience, I've had what I believe to be God or source or love, is what I experienced on the medicine booth of Arius, which is 5-MeO in DMT, which took me into the bliss, or the golden lake, the drop in the ocean, where I became one with everything. And it was just bliss. It was energy, it was frequency, it was love, and I was part of the whole. And it was a profound experience to feel that I'm all of this. We are all of this. We're all connected to that, and we're all part of each other. So God is that one consciousness. Paradoxically, we have our own identity, single consciousness, what I see it as. But paradoxically, we are all part of the one. We're all part of the God. We're all part of the whole. So that's what God means to me. It's a power of love. It's the feeling of interconnectedness. Just there's no words that do it justice, because I felt what I believe to be God within me, from the experiences I've had with the 5-MeO and the plant medicines, and states of deep meditation times, and etc. But pure love, connection, and just the feeling of that, for me, that's what God is within me.
Yeah, that is beautiful. How do you define spirituality and religion?
I suppose we'll start with spirituality. For me, is finding that for me personally, what it means to me is being in my truth. It doesn't mean I think being human is spiritual anyway. Not being human is being spiritual in its own right. And that, to start with that framework, there's nothing not spiritual about being human. So, and it's about following that inner truth, going back into your own intuition, trusting your own innate guidance, following the path of excitement for yourself that leads you to all these expansive ways of expressing yourself with your imagination and your consciousness and your voice, following that innate wisdom that is always within you. If you tap into that and step into and connect with your higher self, that is what I believe the spiritual path is. It's about truth, will, your own connection to yourself, and how you treat people is how you treat yourself. Just that love, that's the path of spirituality for me. It's been just truth and compassion, and there's many distortions of spirituality, because you can probably see the spirituality business out there. It's a market for itself, but it's just your own innate truth and wisdom and connection with your own source. Religion for me, it's a chunky subject, because I didn't get put through that kind of, I didn't have religion in my life in a sense, but I understand the concepts of it. And I believe that it has its place, and it's helped people have a framework to help themselves. But I also feel it's disconnected and disempowering in its way. There's always some kind of middleman between you and your own source and your own connection, maybe. There's always someone you've got to pay, maybe, to you know, like add into that. Like, you know, not pigeonholing one religion. There's money, there's things going on with religions that are not great, but there's always a disconnection with you and your source, and it disempowers you, I feel, and it can become dogmatic, and people get caught up in their belief systems about it. And I think it's been a lot of religion and text has been rewritten for ego and control as well. That's the way I see it, and it's not all bad, and that's not a negative framework for it all. It's helped people follow some of its powerful values and love, and live amazing lives following specific religions. Some religions are truly connected. I feel there's a distortion in some religions that disconnects us from our truth, but I think some religions still are very, very connected on this planet to some of that stuff. So it's quite a generalized answer, but I just feel we're always seeking something outside of ourselves. I don't think it fully empowers us. Not all religions, though. Some are. I'm not going to get into which ones and which ones aren't, because you know, just it's a big discussion. But I feel I was blessed to not have that process of undoing that stuff, because I've worked with people who have got very dogmatic religious backgrounds, and there's a lot of distortion and a lot of deep inner work that I've had to do with people personally to free them from those beliefs about themselves and the sin and things like that. The things that they believe about themselves come from religion, come from that stuff. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I completely agree with you in that sense. So what was the lesson? What was the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
I would say the lesson took me longest to learn is boundaries with others, and self-care, and honouring myself. It's took me a long time to get in my power, which I feel I am now, and that's not coming from ego, just in my truth, and to be able to express myself, but also be able to hold that back and not be, and let my ego run riot, in a sense of not giving myself away and let people come in and take everything from me, because there's no victim there. I'm allowing that to happen. Like, I've opened my boundaries so much, and there's been this rescuer thing going on with me where I feel like I have to rescue people. That was part of my unconscious thing that happened when I made that unconscious decision that it was all my fault when my friend passed away. I made an unconscious decision that if I could maybe rescue other people on an unconscious decision, that maybe I could make what happened right. So in my therapy, I allowed people to I allowed people to cross boundaries. In my life, I allowed people to cross boundaries. I would overgive, overcare, but it's like filling a black hole when those people are around you. You've allowed them in, because you're constantly giving, and then they just want more, and you burn out yourself. So boundaries is a big one for me. And I've had to learn that in a way, because it helps me with my process as well. I've been a practitioner in kind of mental health and things like that, but learning boundaries and valuing my own energy was the biggest one. That's took me the longest to make, because I've really gone through the mill with that stuff energetically within myself. and giving all my stuff away. Like I'd like get something and then I'd be speaking it to the people, and then next minute they'd be put it out there on Facebook. Get excited about all I seek it, and I give it away because I get excited and gave it away, and my boundaries around that stuff. But now I really all in. I just speak. I know wisdom comes from not speaking sometimes and just being present and not having the ego run and saying I'm this and that, but also not, knowing when to say stuff and when to not say stuff, and my own personal boundaries with people has been the piece of the puzzle that I needed. That took me the longest. If that's helpful.
Yeah. I think I need a lesson from you on it as well, because I'm in pretty much the same boat. I have a big heart. I just give everyone so much, and then when I don't get it back, well, it's not like I'm expecting it, but it's like I'm oversharing, over giving, and I need to set boundaries. Like, look, this is my values. This is what I want. And I feel like a lot of empathic people, boundaries it's hard to come by for them. It's really hard. You have to really be okay turning people down. You have to be okay with saying no. You have to be okay. It's like, okay, this is my personal space, and even if I don't feel like sharing, I don't need to, so it's a lot of work, and I can totally resonate.
You're learning all the time through the experience of life, and this is the thing, you cannot, the only way you can get better at this is life itself, and having those moments of realizing, okay, I've done this, so you're better than you was yesterday, and you'll be better in the future. It's just a continuity of teachings of you eventually saying people pleasing, yes to everything, and getting caught up, and then you realize you've overloaded yourself. It's a big one.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So that's it for the questions, James. Finally, what is that one message you would like to share with someone who's going through adversity right now? Like, if they are in darkness right now, what would you tell them?
So from coming from my own experience of that, and with my own darkness, and but knowing from that place of darkness, transformation can happen. So if we can see darkness and suffering as where we're at, and that's where we're at then. So if we can intend then to, okay, we're here now. It's not getting any better. It's not getting any easier. Okay, now is the time for me to take that responsibility, in a sense, and that's not in a judgment. It's like self-responsibility. Okay, this is a window of opportunity now. I've been suffering for so long. I'm in darkness. Can I take a leap of faith now? Can I now say to myself, I will do anything beyond the means of conventionality of what I've been doing? I'm still in darkness. What can I do? How can I open a window of consciousness for myself now and take a leap of faith into the unknown, where I will be supported, I will be loved, because that's what the universe does. It does. It opens doors and it supports you all the time. It's reframing suffering and the darkness, and it's archetypal as well. We go through this as kind of like the archetypal journey, when we disconnect and we're in that suffering, and we don't even trust the universe. So maybe we don't use the universe as a metaphor. We just use ourselves. Okay, to ourselves, I'm going to do what it takes now. I'm going to let go of what I feel is victim consciousness, and that's not a judgment as well. A lot of us can stay in that place of a victim and work our way through that. And now I'm going to take this opportunity to open a window of consciousness, to step through that and take a leap of faith into the unknown of things that I've never done before, that can maybe change my reality with no expectation, and follow that thread. So just do what it takes to take you out of where you've been. You have to step out, because wherever you are, you can only go up from there. But you don't want to stay in that suffering for too long, because you've suffered enough. But when you decide that you're ready and you can climb out of that, I know it to be true. I know there's people who have, but there's people with complex disorders as well. And I know that's not ever an easy thing to say, and that might take a lot longer than it has me. But I know if you keep on aligning yourself to that belief that it's possible, and taking that leap of faith and reframing it to suffering to transformation, and using that window, you can climb out of that, and there is support, there's people around you, and know that it's possible. And just, you know, if you can use me as like a mirror for that, then you're welcome to do that. It's possible. And but no, it's possible.
Yeah,
you know, it is possible.
Yeah, totally get you. Totally. It's really beautiful and a great advice for someone who's going through adversity, that, you know, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, sometimes when we're in darkness, it's where you need to be in order for your soul to grow, in order for you to grow, to always remember that, and to actually, what I say is celebrate being in the darkness, because, you know, like, this is where you're going to get the most growth. You know, it was, you know, James, like, your story's just been you know, mind-blowing, absolutely incredible, you know, everything that you've been through, and the transformation, and like the work that you're doing now. It's like, you know, you are showing people that like you say, it is possible to turn your life around. It is possible for you to get to where you need to be in life, but you just have to trust in the timing of everything. You have to trust in the universe. You have to trust like that there is a better plan for you out there. So thank you so much, James, for coming on this podcast. I mean, like I said, you are absolutely incredible, such an amazing human being, and I'm so glad that you know, we're friends now. So so is there any last message that you would like to say?
Just hope is you know, use hope as a thing that, you know, the work that I help merchants now, even through these times, with everything that's happening, there's deep polarity, because the world is changing, but change is inevitable. We have to get used to change, obviously, and fluidity with what's happening in the external reality. Things are getting more. This is a generalized message to everybody. I feel things are getting more intense in the external reality, in the internal reality. But the only way out is in. For our seduction and addiction to the external reality and everything that's going on, if we can come inside now to do this inner work, that we can transform, and we can transform from the inside out, and that can ripple through this on this planet, and this consciousness and of who we are in this time. And all that's happening on the external has to happen for change anyway, even though that might be a bit, people may say like, oh, you're too hopeful or whatever. But because of the way this is, because of the deep polarity that's happening in the external reality, it's forcing us to look inside as well. But also, I believe and know to be true that there's an undercurrent of integration happening for humanity right now in the consciousness. So if we can do the inner work, that is most important, because that is the work. We can start to look inside and do those changes. We can be the ones who are part of this new paradigm, the new dawn, as I say. We can assist in this transformation just by doing our own inner work and changing consciousness. It's hope. I want to be a hope merchant for these times. You've got so much around you. You're connected to so much. Being on this podcast, you're going to have a well of information from Madiha and all her guests. So just keep seeking, keep looking, keep growing. And that's my message to everybody in this time, to go inside.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I mean, I don't want this interview to end, but unfortunately we have to. Thank you, James, for coming on this podcast.
Yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure, Madiha. It's been a pleasure to get to know you as a friend and to connect with you and to be a part of your birth and your journey, your joy, which is this podcast. I wish you well wishes and blessings and all that you're creating in this world. It's gonna help so many people, and it was a pleasure to share this, you know, share myself on this podcast. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to Soul Awakenings with Madiha Sosan podcast. I would love to know what your biggest takeaway from this conversation has been. Share your thoughts on my Facebook and Instagram, Madiha Sosan. You can also check out my website, madihasosan.com. If you would like to watch this episode, then head over to my YouTube channel, Mads corner, MADZ corner. If you enjoyed this episode, then please do rate and share this with your family and friends. Thank you once again, and I will see you on the next episode.